We're gonna have to go live and do that again. Oh.
Three, two, one.
Technical glitches abound, but it does not slow us down. My name is Jude. This guy right over here is Josh Weidman. Build and Grow with Real Estate Show. We come to you at noon every day live talking about the latest and greatest real estate news that you need to know and content that will help you succeed as a realtor, as a lender, any other service provider to the real estate space, and also as somebody who is making money directly off real estate investments, as somebody who is a flipper or somebody who is somebody who's like a long-term buy and hold investor. And it is a great time to be in the real estate space. It's a very exciting time to be in the real estate space. And we've got a lot of content to bring to you here today. We're going to do our news show today because tomorrow, what?
No, nothing.
We're going to do our news show today because tomorrow we are going to be introducing and interviewing. That's money on the line, Josh. You got to take that call, buddy. Tomorrow we are going to be talking to David Lanza, who was attorney. Yeah, this is live radio, ladies and gentlemen. I've known Dave Lanza for about 20 years. He is a great attorney right here in central Pennsylvania. And we had him on about 2 or 3 months ago talking about evictions and foreclosures, how to make them happen, and how to survive today. And we are going to have him on for an update because there are some new things that you need to be doing if you're interested in evicting people from your property.
Judo, that show was incredible. We had so much great feedback, and it was so funny. Anytime that we've got a broadcast going on, we love getting comments from people. And like as he's going through, it was almost like everybody just shut up and stopped typing and just like pulled up their chair and like held their ear close to the microphone. There was so much great content.
That was almost kind of freaky because typically we just like a speaker, you get a feel for the audience.
Yeah.
And Dave is not one to tell a whole lot of jokes or use a whole lot of anecdotes, let's say, as he speaks. Yeah. And I was kind of, as he was talking, I was kind of worried a little bit about it because we had gotten so few comments. Don't worry, Matt. He's going to be on tomorrow and he's going to be updating everybody. So anyway, so it was kind of a little bit dead with feedback from the audience during the show. But then afterwards, it really popped and people were reaching out to us and people were telling us how meaningful it was. And I think that was more of a active listening time for people where they were really taking notes and really thinking about what it meant for them. So anyway, long setup to just say that Dave Lanza is going to be on the show again tomorrow, talking about evictions, how to make them happen, how to avoid pitfalls and things like that right here in central Pennsylvania. The other thing that we want to talk to you guys about right at the beginning of the show is our 5-day challenge that Josh and I are launching on Monday. And you want to go to buildandgrowwithrealestate.com and get registered for that. It's totally free to get registered. We are going to be talking about how to get your first flip under your belt, how to flip real estate without cash, credit, or criminal behavior is the name of the 5-day challenge that we are going to be doing. We are going to be live every day, and we're going to be asking you to go live with us every day. And we are going to be delivering awesome content every day, and it's going to be a great way that we can push content through to you, be it flyers, be it sample, one-page contracts. Everybody who comes is going to get. I have 2 or 3 different one-page contracts that I use at different times. There are going to be a number of different ways. We've definitely had some challenges with people getting actually on the Facebook group, and we're working through that so that we can get people in the private Facebook group. But what you want to do is
that'll be taken care of today.
Yeah.
I figured it out this morning, but it didn't have a chance to make the switch here. But
So we're
everybody,
gonna get everybody in a Facebook group, and
Yep.
you want to go to buildandgrowwithrealestate.com. Here's my question. Here's my request, ladies and gentlemen. If you could screenshot this, if you're one of our regular listeners, if you wouldn't mind sharing this in any Facebook groups that you are a part of or on your wall. We're just trying to create a little bit of buzz, and we know that there's a couple people out there who are big fans of Josh and big fan of mine. And we are going to be delivering a whole lot of content, and we're doing this for free for 5 days starting on Monday of next week. You go to buildandgrowwithrealestate.com, screenshot this right here, crop it down, and share it as a picture on your page if you could, or share it in some other Facebook groups that you are a part of, and tag people in this show right now in the comments that you think should be a part of this. Because what we are going to be doing is we're going to be showing people how, without any cash, without any credit, and without doing anything illegal, immoral, or unethical, you can do your first real estate deal. Or you can decide, you know what, I've never done wholesaling before. I've always been a guy that's bought and just rehabbed my own houses, or I've bought from a bunch of turnkey providers. And I've always bought from Roofstock or Jason Hartman or other people like that. They're out there that are turnkey providers. And I want to start developing some cash so that I can do more deals. You know, we had Daryl Everly on last week, and one of the things that Daryl Everly talked about was how he put very little of his own money into deals. Now, maybe it's just going to take you $100 to tie up a deal, or maybe you're going to have to spend $150 on the deed prep. Okay, when we say no money, we don't mean actually $0. It's just not going to take you $20,000 or $30,000 in a down payment to get your first deal.
And the other part of that, Judah, is that with a lot of the things that we talk about on this show, but really specifically that we're going to be targeting, wholesaling has become a pretty competitive marketplace, right? So, one of the things that, you and I were talking about a campaign over the summer that I did, that I couldn't believe how many people had such a negative response, because the list that I was targeting, I didn't think that it was going to be something where everybody got beat up, where they're getting constant mailers. The nice thing about, some of the things that we're going to get into in the challenge is that you're able to put a little tweak on it and get a competitive advantage, against your competition. You can spend your money on, investing in marketing, in developing your business, as opposed to spending it on the property, on the closing costs, and how to take advantage of using other people's money, in order to do that kind of thing.
Right. And Josh and I aren't some big seminar gurus that we go around the U.S., selling $10,000 courses or anything like that. I'm an active wholesaler. I'm making money in that space right now, as well as being a realtor that wants to list properties for you, as well as being an executive at a property management company. Josh, as well as working on flipping houses, and Josh and I are actually working on a flip right now together, as well as, and we're gonna take you guys through. By the way, spoiler alert, Josh and I are working on a pretty big rehab together that we are going to be taking you guys through and walking you through and doing before and after videos as stuff gets completed. I think it's going to be really great content that we're going to be able to roll out. But Josh and I are active real estate investors. And what we're going to be doing is talking about what's really working right now for wholesaling, how to do it, how not to do it. What people talk about in a course, but that doesn't actually work. There are people who, let me just say this, most of the wholesaling courses and information that I've seen out there, there is something that people teach you how to do, and it takes up 30 to 40% of your time. And people teach you how to do it and do it first. And it's one of the first things that you should do. And it is a giant waste of time. And we're going to be talking about that in the course. Okay. So you have to sign up for free. I'm not holding back secrets and saying you got to pay me money to do this. So this is, but you've got to get registered for this. And we are going to help you save 40 to 60% of your time, especially time that you shouldn't be spending up front, by doing certain activities. And
Right.
we're going to be going through how to actually do deals. And also, here's the other thing. So Terry's in this group. Terry's checking us out right now. I know that Terry is somebody who has completed some wholesales and done some deals recently. Okay.
Yep.
And he's an active investor. He hasn't done 80 kajillion deals and been at this for 20 years and made millions of dollars. But guess what? Part of the reason why we're doing this course the way we're doing it, the reason we're doing this as a 5-day challenge, is because I want to know what we say in a day's video that was valuable to Terry, or what we say live and have Terry say, hey, you know what, guys, actually, I've put this little tweak on it, and I've found that it's valuable this way. See, with a show like this, we can kind of read comments and stuff like this, but with the private Facebook group, there's going to be a whole lot more collaboration. And Josh and I know we don't know everything. Josh and I know that we don't have it all figured out. You know, my pastor says that sometimes Christianity is just one beggar telling another beggar where he found some bread. And that's kind of what I love about real estate is real estate is just one beggar telling another beggar where they got some bread. And that's what we're going to be doing in this. So please go to buildandgrowwithrealestate.com. It's free. Please share this. Post this on social media so we can get some other people there. And then after the course, we're going to want to know what your thoughts are. So Josh, let's jump into the content for today, unless you have anything else.
Absolutely. All right. So we're okay. So we got a kind of a hodgepodge of, of what we're going to go through.
Economic news. The economic news is really great.
All over the place. Really big. I mean, good news. Really good news. So first thing, you want to talk about GDP.
So I want to talk about GDP. So a lot of the so a lot of people have been talking and knowing that this GDP number was going to be a big number. And, politicians have been out there toting it and things like that. And obviously, just after a huge down spike, it doesn't take a lot to really come up from that. So what I heard the joke I heard was it's kind of like doing well at open mic night after Professor Snape is the opening act. You know what I mean? Anybody is funny after that. So after the second quarter that we had, anything is going to be great. And people were talking about 20 to 25%, maybe possibly we could be looking at 33%. Or 30%. Here's the crazy thing. The number just came out and it's 33.1%. I wasn't expecting this number until Monday, because typically GDP comes out, the first, it's like the first day of the month after, so it's out a little bit early. And the fact that it is as huge as it is very meaningful. Now, do we still have recovery to go? Do we still have, jobs to replace and everything like that? Yes. But the point is that this is GDP, and there's been a lot of people who have been downplaying this recovery, saying, oh, the stock market isn't the economy. The stock market isn't real. The stock market doesn't apply to everybody, even though a lot of people have stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and their 401ks. The GDP number is everybody. The GDP number quite literally is our combined gross domestic product. So the fact that this number is as huge as it is means big companies, small companies, rich people, poor people, everybody is out there spending money 33.1% more than what they did in Q2 of this year.
Well, so I think one thing to look at here is you kind of insinuated about this, but like very clearly, I think it's important to look at where the GDP is coming from, because if we have a spike in, let's say,
manufacturing or just food service or
whatever, I think that there is probably some money tied up in one or two industries, but because so many industries across the board were suppressed. You know, it's not like you have gas and oil that are just spiking right now. I mean,
Right.
they're in the crapper, right?
Right.
Like there's not, it doesn't seem like there's one specific area, maybe in medical and healthcare that might be.
Sure. There's always going to be some outliers. There's always going to be some overperformers, but
Right.
you don't get a number like 33.1% GDP growth without broad-based growth. And so this is, a lot of people have been saying K recovery, that we're not actually seeing a V-shaped recovery, you know, that the top is doing well and the bottom's actually doing worse. You don't get a 33%, you don't get a 33.1% growth number without it being very broad based. And really, here's the great thing about that. I know a lot of people who are waiting to make moves until after the election. I know a lot of people who are waiting to do things, and we've talked about that, right? I mean, on this show, we talked about how after the election we're going to see a breakout, and how after the election it doesn't matter, because here's what's going to happen. People are going to say, "Oh darn, that guy won."
Right.
Oh well, I have to live my life. Or people are going to say, "Yay, that guy won. I'm excited. Let's go make moves." See, it doesn't matter if it doesn't matter which one of that guys it is. People are going to say, "Yay, I've been waiting for an excuse to invest, and this is going to be my excuse." Or people are going to say, "You know what? In spite of that, I'm going to overcome and I'm going to invest."
And with these GDP numbers, of course, they came out early. It's right before a national election, and any good news or really bad news that can be dumped on the, you know, on the American people is going to happen. But I almost wonder, though, now in retrospect, to see this growth, I wonder if one of the reasons that there's no stimulus package being pushed through is if it's not like, let's give a little test of where we are, really.
Right.
You know, and like, let's get through the end of this year and see what happens. And then, you know, kind of play it out. And that, I mean, it can be really cruel. That can be a really cruel move if the bottom is doing as poorly as everybody's, you know, as people seem to talk about. But I think in reality, I think what we're going to find is things are a lot more stable, or maybe they're a lot more localized than you would see from some national numbers.
Yeah, I completely agree. And here's the deal. You sound cold and heartless when you say this, and I don't mean to come across as cold and heartless, but there's always people who are doing poorly. You can always find people, unfortunately, who are sleeping on park benches and sewer grates and who just got laid off and who just lost their health care and are going through a negative situation.
Sure.
So the question is there more of that happening or not? And, you know, you can just because you find a whole bunch of anecdotal stories doesn't mean that it's consensus. How you figure out in a consensus manner what's actually going on with the economy is measure it at metered intervals. And we as a country have decided that every quarter we're going to look and say, okay, on an annualized basis, how much have we grown? And if we did in Q3, what we did, we would be 33% larger than what we were last year. So the economy would grow at 33% on an annualized basis. So that's a really strong number. And if we're seeing strong numbers like that in the headwind of this pandemic, and listen, you know, we're coming into a third wave, and the numbers are going up, and the numbers are going up for cases, and the numbers are going up for hospitalizations and everything like that. And Europe is looking at shutting down again, and we're going back into winter, and who knows what's going to happen. But we've also, pandemics get better over time; they don't get worse. Right? Like more and more herd immunity does become a thing, and we're coming closer to a vaccine, and we're figuring out what do you call it when you're treating somebody, when you're not preventing, but when you're actually treating
Right. Preventative.
Therapeutics. What therapeutics are actually working and not. So in the face of all this headwind, we're still seeing a good economy. There's no reason to believe that real estate is going to fall off the cliff in Q1 of 2021. There's no reason to believe that you're going to lose 50% of your value in real estate next year.
Well, exactly. And we already know that there are going to be some negative side effects of this COVID shutdown and everything else. But I think we've gotten to a point in our economy and with our comfort level with this virus, just as a general population, not everybody. By the way, your background makes you look like you're on America's Most Wanted. It's like we're Judah Hoover, last seen in Lancaster. Anyway, so the point being, I think that people have gotten to a point where some people are comfortable going into public without a mask. Other people are not comfortable at all around people without a mask. So if that's the case, at least we're not at this point where like you're not sure if you're going to pick up the Amazon box that just got delivered to your house because it could be infected. And do you have to quarantine it for 2 weeks before you open the box? And besides that, I think people have come to the realization that like there could be some really bad financial side effects if we don't get back to work. And maybe we haven't realized them yet. And maybe we have, but we need to get back to work. And I think that, just in general, people are out doing that.
Yeah, 100%. Completely agree. So GDP numbers are looking good. We've also got some other stories here today. Josh, what's our?
I know I've been jumping all over the place, but let's see here. The next story is about doggone it. Let me see here. Our next story here is on some of the big money that's going into politics right now. All right.
Right.
Or not, politics. Going into housing. All right. Man, my brain's in too many spots. All right. So right now, there are two major players that have just raised a boatload of cash to invest in the housing market. And they're just sitting back and waiting for opportunities. Blackstone, who, if you followed residential real estate on a mass scale or even on a light scale, you look back, do some Googling on Blackstone. They made billions of dollars from the 2008 downturn because they bought at the right time in the market and they sold on the upswing. And they did it working through wholesalers and working across the country on single family homes. They just raised $8 billion in September specifically to invest in real estate. So, that doesn't necessarily mean, residential stuff. We're not talking about necessarily, a bulk of foreclosures, but what we are talking about is a huge dent of the, huge portion of the commercial market, malls, retail outlets, hotels, office buildings, things like that. They're coming to a point where they can't extend their loan anymore, or it's time for them to refinance. And now their numbers, all of these places are valued on cash flow. All of them are hurting. And so, you have guys like Blackstone and this Madison Realty Capital. They've raised $900 million this year since March, specifically looking for real estate opportunities. I think that there is a very good bet here that, there's going to be some big opportunities coming around the bend in the investing world.
Well, yeah, I also think that, one of the things that they're talking about with a lot of these malls and other things like that is just because of where they're located and because of how, there was a mall, right? And then there was also kind of like a bunch of satellite malls and strip malls that kind of come up around there. And they are also pretty closely located to highways, or highways were built close to them. There is some people talking about leveling all of that, because if you think about how big a space the mall is and the parking lots around it, kind of reclaiming that space and doing housing developments and other things like that in those spaces. What that would mean is an alleviation for the housing crunch that we're experiencing and feeling.
Judah, how about this? Can you imagine the huge drop in value of that land if somebody's buying it as a developer and that's the only value in the buildings and land? You're buying that land value, so you're actually buying less than it would cost you to buy the real raw land because you have to demo everything.
Right.
Wow, that's unbelievable. I mean,
yeah. So that's but look at you know, a lot of places that's the best way to develop. Because we've been pushing out, and you know, it's especially in central Pennsylvania, we're talking about cutting down trees or paving over farmland. Kind of redeveloping land like that can be a good thing.
Well, it can be a really huge thing, but I mean, this reminds me of a talk Gary Vaynerchuk did a couple of years ago, and we was talking about 7-Eleven, and he's like, "Look, in 20 years, you won't ever go to a 7-Eleven. And you won't go because you won't need to. There will be nothing that you can't get within an hour with an app, and you won't ever have to run into anybody or see anybody. And it's like just delivered at your door." It reminds me of like what we end up with is where the market pushes things, right? When there's a vacancy in the market or somebody says, I can do that better, especially with the free-flowing capital investments that we've had over the last 2 decades, you get a company like Amazon that steps in and is able to provide a better service at a lower cost than driving down to the mall and buying something. It puts a tax on that side of the market, right? So if this plays out, let's say it plays out, you have this whole industry of malls and parking lots that just crumbles and disappears from the landscape. You've got new housing that goes in there. And it just so happens that we had a huge demand right now for housing. And like the technology is almost ahead of it. It's like, you know, what are they? It's
almost like there's an invisible hand that moves the market, and that the market finds equilibrium on its own without anybody, without any central planning. Is that
right? Exactly.
Almost what you're saying, Josh?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like the market finds an answer; it always does.
Yep.
And that brings us to our next story. This is a less of we'll probably have less of an impact than the money entering the market in the short term, but in the long term, we talked last Friday about a number of different companies entering or dominating the iBuyer space and how that could have play a role in the future of real estate agents in general and really companies, well, Realogy, gee whiz, I can't even say their name right. I kind of had a hard time putting my finger on exactly what these guys do, except that, they've been a third-party servicer for technology for existing brokerages, real estate and title. They have their own title arm now, and they also have their own brokerage arm that is primarily online. Is that about right, Judah?
Yeah, very much.
Okay. So they, in the second quarter, they lost 40% of their value. Like they lost 40% of their income overnight during the second quarter. And there were, all kinds of articles about how they're going to crash and burn, and this is never going to work. Well, guess what? They made $98 million in Q3, above what profit, clear profit. Net. Yeah. And they partnered with, who is it here? Home Partners, creating this Real Sure iBuyer program. And I think this is going to be a game changer. If you're a seller, Judah, and you have a house that you're thinking about listing, you don't really want the parade of people, you want an easy solution. They come in and they offer you, hey, look, Judah, we'll give you $80,000 for your house. It'll be really easy. It's a cash purchase. You don't have to show the place. We're good to go. And, the offer is good for 45 days. We can also list your house in the meantime and use this as a backup offer.
Right.
Depending on what their profit margins look like, that could be a really interesting play, to kind of see how that plays in the, in the marketplace. Like it'll be interesting to see what kind of competitive advantage that offers.
Well, hopefully they figure it out, because also if they figure it out, then there's going to be a number of copycats, right?
Yeah.
So there was the Prius, and there was the Volt, and there was all these companies out there that were trying electric, couldn't figure it out. Tesla figured it out. And now guess what we see? Now we see a bunch of companies. I read about them in the tech blogs that I read. It seems like every month I'm reading about 2 or 3 new electric car manufacturers that I didn't even know existed before. I think the same thing can and will happen in the iBuyer space once somebody figures it out and figures out how to do it. But here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. That doesn't exist in a vacuum, right? Like they still need people on the ground to do that.
And don't forget MySpace.
Right. Well, sure, absolutely. And some people are going to get MySpace out of existence, but there's also ways that you can work with all these large big tech companies. So a big tech company that's operating in this space is called Roofstock. And they sell turnkey properties nationwide. Well, guess what? They need turnkey providers. And so it's one of the ways that Eric Brewer sells 375 houses a year. Eric Brewer sells 375 houses a year, not because he fights against companies like this, but because he works with them. So figure out how to work with companies like this and actually make a difference.
That's right. That's right.
What are you asking? By what? I don't know what you're saying, Matt.
I can't believe 375 properties.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah,
375 properties.
375 properties every year.
A year, right? That's a crazy number. Take that and divide it by 12 to get a monthly number. Take that number and divide it by 20 because I figured that there's 20 working days in any month, and you'll see the type of volume that they're working on there. So, ladies and gentlemen, appreciate you being. MySpace, got it. Haha, that was his joke. So, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate you being with us here today. You want to be with us tomorrow because we're going to be bringing some latest and greatest real estate news on evictions. It's going to be a very critical show for you to pay attention to. And please, Josh, bring up that slide again that would like everyone to take a picture of and share on Facebook, share in groups and things like that so that we can build a community around wholesalers and create some wholesaling momentum because wholesalers work great with each other, and we want you to go to buildandgrowwithrealestate.com, get registered for free for our 5-day Facebook challenge, flipping houses without cash, credit, or criminal behavior. We're going to start that on Monday in our private Facebook group that you've got to get registered for free to be a part of. Other than that, we'll be back here tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, screenshot this thing that's right over here, and we'll go from there. Thanks, everybody.
Awesome. And if you like the show today, make sure you share the love, share and like us, and we'll be back here at noon. Thanks, everybody.
See you, everybody.